I'm Georgina Hall, and this is the Female Empowered Podcast, inspired by the casual conversations I've had with thousands of women over my career in coaching. This is not just another wanky women's wellness podcast. We are bringing the uprising. Hi friends, welcome to the Female Empowered Podcast. I'm your host, Georgina Hall, personal trainer, online coach, and offer of opinions. Today, I am talking to Stephen Hall, psychotherapist, counsellor, and one half of TY Therapies. He was also birthed from the same womb as me. He is my brother. It's Stephen Hall.
Thank you very much.
I took us both by surprise with that birth from the same womb comment, didn't I?
Yes, you did. I was not expecting that.
Neither
I thought,
was I.
she's not going to mention we're related, and then there we were. Womb.
Brought it out of the left field. I've never actually described any of my siblings in that way before.
I'd potentially not do it again.
So, Stephen, tell us about yourself. How would you introduce yourself?
Well, I would describe myself as someone who is trying their best most of the time, but not always.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, well, I would say so. But sometimes it's good to be aware of that. Say it out loud. Accept it's okay.
When are you not trying your best?
When am I not trying? When am I not trying my best?
I mean, I know the answer, but I am wondering what you're going to say to the public.
All right, when am I not trying my best? Okay. Well, I am trying my best when I'm working.
Good. Important.
So sometimes I don't always try my best with my eating habits.
Okay.
Or sometimes even my alcohol intake. Yeah.
But you're only a human being, aren't you? You're not a robot.
I'm not a robot. Like, yeah, there was a song about that, wasn't there?
I don't know.
Marina and the Diamonds.
Oh, yeah, sure. We'll have to link that in the show notes now.
Great idea.
I'm going to go away and get that on Spotify. So Stephen Hall, you work as a counsellor. So before we start talking, we will give the people some background that you are a professional in this. You're not just my brother who I've been like, hey, come and give the people relationship advice.
Yeah, that's very true. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
This is what I do for a living. I am trained. I went to university for several years. 5, 6-ish.
I'm not trained, but I will just give my opinion on things because that's what I do.
You are trained in some things, though, right?
I mean, trained in many things, just not in relationship health.
Well, that is something I would like to set clear at the very beginning. Like, I am not trained as a couples therapist, but I am trained as a people therapist, and relationships just involve people, right?
Yeah.
But just because I say something doesn't mean it's fact. And particularly when we go through the questions that we're going to go through, like, I have a small pocket of information, so I'll do my best.
Because this is one of the situations where you do your best.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I would also say, if you are listening to this podcast, just imagine that you've asked every single question, and then take what seems useful for you. Just because someone's talking about maybe a relationship with a partner, the information might be transferable to, say, your relationship with your mom.
Yeah, that's good.
And also, when I speak about responsibility, that's not about blame. We never blame ourselves, but we do take.
I have a feeling that there's going to be a lot of that. FYI, is the most questions that I've ever had in for anybody on relationships.
That's amazing.
I think it's I think it's probably, I think things are getting a bit intense, aren't they, at the minute with lockdown, working from home.
Yeah, being in that environment together all the time, a lot of your coping strategies being taken away from you. Yeah, it can require a little bit more effort maybe sometimes.
So shall we dive straight into some questions? Because we just got loads to get through.
But one last thing before we do. Sometimes on these kind of things, people don't answer the question that they're asked, or they give a generic answer. I don't want that to be the case. So if you have asked a question and it isn't answered the way you wanted it to, or it's not clear, then go to my Instagram or the Instagram at TY Therapy courses and just DM me.
Yeah.
And I probably won't answer you straight away because I don't have notifications, but I will answer you. And I am on holiday this week, so.
Okay. Maybe. Okay, let's answer some questions, shall we, Stephen? I'll link to your Instagram so that people can find you. But we need to get into this because the people need our help, Steve.
Right. Well, I've made some notes, so.
So I'm going to go with the first load of questions that I got through. How to make an emotionally unavailable person open up about their past.
Yeah. Okay. So the short answer is you don't, and they don't have to, because perhaps their past was traumatic or difficult, and you've got to ask yourself, well, are you qualified to deal with that if that comes out? And also maybe you're blurring the boundaries of your relationship. But let them know that you are there if they want to speak, and then let them choose whether they do or not. Don't put pressure on them, because not speaking may be their way of keeping themselves safe. They may be better speaking with a professional, which they could find on the counselling directory. But they would need to make that choice and let them take responsibility for it.
I do know that this is a girl asking about a boy, so let's just touch on that for a second. Let's try and break down the stigma of therapy, especially for men.
Well, I mean, I do get that quite a lot actually at work. You know, they're like, "Oh, I've never done this before," or "Oh, I've never asked for help before." But if you wanted a new kitchen, you would get a kitchen fitter in. You know, you wouldn't just stumble through it as best you could. So if you want some help with how you're feeling, then speak to someone who's going to be able to support you with that.
Yeah, and I think that if people are quite happy to get a personal trainer, and I think in some cases wear it a bit like a badge of honor, I've got a personal trainer, and I, as you know, often describe you as a personal trainer of the mind, whereas I'm a personal trainer of the body. So I don't think there's any shame in acknowledging that you need a personal trainer of the mind. It's very important. Your mind is a muscle that needs help and support just like your body does.
Yeah, there's no shame in it. And the likelihood is that the only person that will criticize you for doing it is you. So if you can just get past that, just make the call, just go for the first appointment. If you don't like it, you don't have to go back. You know, there's no obligation. You're not tied in, you're not contracted in.
And you might not like a certain counsellor either, and I think it's important to have a little shop around, same as with a personal trainer or a kitchen fitter, is have a little shop around and see who's going to work well with you. Yeah.
Look at their reviews, you know, see their work. Well, that's what you do for kitchen fitter, right?
Check a trade. Someone's asked me how to not chicken out of breaking up with someone.
Well, ask yourself, what's my motivation for staying in the relationship? You know, people quite often it's like, oh, I don't want to hurt, upset, etc. the other person. But do you think that person wants to stay in a relationship with someone who doesn't want to be in a relationship with them? I would guess not. Also, don't take responsibility for the other person's feelings, because you're not. The other person is allowed to feel sad, hurt, upset, angry, etc. And it's part of the grieving process. You don't have to take that away from them. And they will need to grieve the relationship if it comes as a shock, or they want to stay in the relationship. They will need to grieve that, and that's fine. And acknowledge that it's hard to hurt someone that you care about, but it's okay. And you're doing both of you a favor long term.
I do think that people have a kind of sense of obligation sometimes, and it's that thing, isn't it, that however much time you've put into the relationship, you then feel that time is wasted. And I think that can cause people to stay in a relationship that doesn't work or isn't right for them for even longer, because they don't want to write the time off that they've put into it. Like when you get into a queue and you stood in the queue for so long that you think, I'm gonna have to just stay in this fucking queue, aren't I? Because I've invested too much time and energy into this queue now.
Yes, but it's not wasted, because whatever you've got from the relationship so far is learning. It's valuable. It's never wasted.
Never lose, you learn.
Depending on how you look at it, exactly. Make that choice.
Write that, get that on a t-shirt. So a few people at the moment are finding it hard to balance home, work, social, romantic, family life. What do we do to prioritize our relationship at this time when all of the lines of different parts of our lives have become a little bit blurred with lockdown?
Well, start by asking yourself, what's the most important? Because it is about prioritizing, right? If your relationship's important to you, then prioritize it. And you might just need to get more creative with what you do. Like
in the bedroom, or?
Yeah, for sure, why not? But not just in the bedroom, like with all things, So you maybe can't go out. Maybe what you would normally do if you want to spend time together is you go out for a nice meal together. Well, you can't do that. So what? We're just never going to do anything. No, order in. You can still order in, right?
Yeah.
Order in takeaway, or make a nice meal together. Get a nice bottle of wine, light some candles, make it romantic.
And actually, we discussed date ideas with Geordie Scran in a recent podcast, so you can go and listen to that one. She'll give you some tips and recommendations of things that you can do for dates in lockdown.
Yes, be creative. The more ideas that you look for, the more you'll find.
And the more that you concentrate on things that you can't do, the more upset you'll get about the things that you can't do.
And you'll find more things that you can't do.
Yeah.
There's lots of things that you can't do right now, but you don't have to focus on them. But it is worth acknowledging them, and grieving and going, oh, well, this is sad. There's no point pretending it's not. But what? We don't want to spend the next however many weeks or months just focused on that. So, okay, well, what can we do about it?
Yeah. Ask yourself, what can I do?
Yes.
So I've got a few ones in that you can probably tie into one answer about toxic friends. Do we let them go? Do we work on the friendship? What do we do if somebody's not bringing any benefit to our life?
Well, I probably read both of these questions this morning, but I did kind of write an answer for one. And one of them was talking about guilt. So if you are feeling guilty, it doesn't matter what you're feeling guilty about. If you just go to 3 statements of fact. I haven't done anything wrong. I didn't ask to be treated this way. And now I'm doing what I need to take care of myself. Fact. Okay,
and it's a bit like breaking up with a partner, isn't it? Like, some people wouldn't think twice about breaking up from a relationship that wasn't serving them anymore, but then they're friends with people who they've been friends with since school, and it's now been 20 years, and the person's still bringing nothing to the table. And for some reason, it's that time investment, isn't it? They think, oh, I've been friends with them for so long, I can't stop being friends with them now.
Yeah, and length of time is not a valid reason to remain in any relationship. You know, if you think about relationships like a transaction, you know, I bring something for you, you bring something for me, and we share them together. If I keep bringing and you don't turn up with anything, I'm going to feel emotionally drained because I'm putting all the effort in. You probably feel great because you're still getting it. You're still getting something out of this.
Yeah.
But I'm not. And it's not like a selfish thing or, you know, it has to be 50-50 or, you know, you have to give me something. It's just about sharing energy.
Some days, like, it will be 80-20. Some days people will be on a low and they'll need picking up, but then you would expect that if it was a kind of equally and mutually respected relationship, the tide will turn at some point and it come back on itself, give and receive.
Yeah, over a long period of time, it probably is 50-50. Sometimes it might be 100% zero because they really need you or you really need them. And that's okay. That's what real friendship's about, right? But these things tend to even themselves out. And if they're not doing, well, then what are you getting out of it?
So what do we do? Ghost them? Have a conversation with them? I think that, I'm pretty brutal.
Yeah, you ghost them, I know. But I think, first of all, it's absolutely up to you and do what you feel comfortable with because you want peace of mind. You don't want to leave this thinking, oh my God, why did I treat that person so terribly when actually you didn't. You just chose to stop contacting them. But you can just tell them, hey, look, I've noticed that X, Y, or Z is happening and that's not okay for me. I would go to the behaviors. So that person who was speaking about the toxic friend, you know, if they're going to sit down and have a conversation with them about that, then they go to the behavior that's toxic.
That's a hard conversation, that, isn't it?
Yes, but no one said it was going to be easy.
I need to talk to you. You're a crap friend.
Yeah, that's not going to the behavior though, is it? That's going to that's not the behavior. So, but yes, it's not an easy conversation, but is having a friend who treats you badly and makes you feel shit, is that easy? And the difficult conversation only lasts for the length of time of difficult conversation. The difficulty that you're having with the friendship lasts for, well, sometimes years, isn't it? You know, you speak to people, oh, we've been friends from school. They've been an arsehole the whole time and they're now in their 50s. Like, imagine if you just had a hard conversation 40 years ago.
Once, and it's that thing, isn't it? Like, people getting like anxiety every time they get a message off this person because they don't know how it's going to feel. Just get rid of that anxiety. Get rid of the friend. Why you got a friend who's giving you anxiety every time they message?
But you know, you can also ask yourself, okay, well, what's the anxiety about? What's going on here? You know, and then it might be, okay, well, actually, they put a lot of demands on me and they make it really difficult for me to say no. Okay, well, I need to take responsibility for my boundary and just find a new way to say no. And actually, quite a good way of saying no is just literally by saying no. And then
I guess sometimes they won't even know that you're feeling that way. And if you have the conversation with them, it might be that they're absolutely mortified that you feel that way, and they do change their behavior.
Yes, you're giving them a chance to change if you do that, but you don't have to, because you don't owe anyone anything, right?
Yeah. And linking back to the Geordie Scran podcast about food, if she gets a bad meal, likes to tell the waiter and give them a chance to rectify whatever has happened, rather than just going away and leaving a bad review on TripAdvisor or whatever. So that's kind of what you're doing with your friendship as well, if you want to take that analogy.
Yes. I wrote a really good analogy for answering that question, and now we've just kind of bypassed it. But I wasn't sure that it really worked anyway.
Well, give us your analogy. Come on. I like a good analogy. Let's hear it.
Well, I was thinking about, you know, if you bought a really nice piece of meat or whatever that is your thing, you know, and it's in the fridge, and you've got this you've got this really great plan for, you know, your sides, you know, you've decided what kind of wine you're going to have with it. And you know what kind of dessert you're having, so you're really excited and you're really looking forward to it, and you build it up. It's going to be the best time meal you've ever had. And then there's an emergency or something gets in the way and you can't do it. and then the meat stays in the fridge, and it stays in the fridge, and it stays in the fridge, and then the use-by date goes. But you don't want to chuck it out because it's got all this emotion tied up in it of what, that plan of how brilliant it was going to be. So you keep it and you keep it. And now it's kind of going wrong. But you have a choice whether you eat it or not, knowing that it'll make you feel bad because it's no good for you.
And the longer that you leave it, the more it'll make your fridge stink.
Yes. Actually, I did write about the fridge stinking. So every time you open the door, you get a reminder. Like that text message. Every time you get a text message, you get that horrible feeling inside. It's a reminder. Relationships very similar.
So
if
how
they
much
make
of
you feel
that,
bad, they aren't.
From that analogy, what I'm getting is how much of the relationship or this magical meal that you're going to have, how much of the problem have we caused with our own expectations?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, yeah, sometimes it is our expectation, isn't it? That people will do or be a certain way. Or like if we've done something for them, they'll do something for us, and it's not always the case.
Yeah, and you shouldn't expect something back in return, right? If you're doing something nice to someone. No ulterior motives. And we fantasize about people, don't we? And we make them into a make-believe person in our head that an
idealized version.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the disappointment comes from the expectation, right?
Yeah.
Which is also what happens with your meal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So is there a way, let's say about this relationship or this meal that we're going to have, and we've got a certain expectation now because we've built it up in our head about how magical the meal's going to be and how magical this person is, and they, because they are a real life human being, are not meeting our expectations. How do we reprogram ourselves? How do we break those expectations down so that we can enjoy the person or enjoy the meal for what it actually is?
Well, you might not. But yeah, well, you need to be realistic about your expectations and don't put your stuff onto them. Just because you do a certain thing doesn't mean that they will. It's like with dating. Don't date potential. Date what's in front of you. Oh, if only they just did this, they'd be the perfect friend. Yeah, but they don't do that.
Yeah.
So let's not pretend that they're going to.
They've got so much potential. Yeah, but they're not living up to it.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Oh, but
that's on paper.
If it's just yes, exactly. Yeah, on paper.
It's not on paper.
He's a great guy on paper. Oh, she's a great girl on paper. Yeah, but she doesn't actually do any of those things. Yeah, but she could. Yeah, but she doesn't. That's a T-shirt for you there. Don't date potential. Date what's in front of you.
Yeah, that is a good slogan, actually. I was hoping that we would get more questions about dating apps because it's something that I'm not into and have never been into, and it intrigues me.
What you're probably best doing is just thanking your lucky stars.
I guess that there's a lot of expectation on dating apps that people aren't living up to.
Yeah, just because you're not the kind of person who would ghost someone doesn't mean that they're not the type of person who would ghost someone. And you might ghost someone else in a different scenario. So it's best to not take any of it personally because it isn't. Because that person doesn't really know you.
Yeah. How can they be being personal if they don't know you personally?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'm guessing that's easier said than done.
Yeah, absolutely. Isn't everything?
I do think that if everybody had a therapist, it would make life and relationships easier for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Well, you and I both have therapists, don't we?
We do.
Don't know if that's related to the womb. Or if we both just like looking after ourselves. Or maybe we both just
like talking about ourselves.
Yeah.
I think when I think about, especially with all these questions that are coming through, and I think about my clients and I think about people who are are married, so they've been together for many years, let's say over 5 years, looking up to like 30, 40 for some of them. And they're at home and they're with the kids. And I just think, you know, people, they're doing different things for themselves. He's out playing football on a weekend, she's going to the gym, or they hang out with their friends and they go out for drinks and all of this. And I think, but actually, if you both had a therapist and you both just had separate therapists so you could speak to about separate things that have upset you, you would come back together and you would be so much more there for each other, and you'd be so much happier as individuals coming back together.
You'd be more present. The time you spend together will be, I don't think this is the right, I don't think you can say this, but more quality.
Yeah,
I think it's
know
just
what
quality,
you mean.
isn't it? But,
yeah.
You know, you'd spend quality
Higher
time
quality.
together.
Yeah.
Yeah, higher quality. Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah, higher quality. Yeah, that's what I'm going to say from now on.
Yeah, I just think everyone should get a therapist. Everyone should have a therapist and everyone should have a personal trainer. And funnily enough, here we are.
Here we
the
are.
whole siblings.
Our mother bred them.
from our womb.
From our womb, yeah.
Why have I talked about our mum's womb so much? We've never discussed it this much before. Don't think I've ever discussed it before. I've
tried not to think about it for at least 37 years.
It's a good job she doesn't listen to this podcast. Very awkward. So someone's asked us, here's a good question. How often should you be intimate with your partner?
Yeah, so well, I'm not really sure what exactly that means. I suppose there's different levels of intimacy, but as often as you want to be. And I presume
should's a bad word, right? That's what I've learned from therapy.
Well, we're putting judgment on the word by calling it bad, I suppose. I'm not sure how useful it is. It often comes with a pointed finger. It's often critical because it's implying that you've not done something as well as you could have done, and that's rubbish. But yeah, so hang on, what was the question? Oh, the should about the intimacy. Yeah. So there's no way of answering that question, is there? Because we all need different levels of intimacy. But I presume they've asked that question because they're not getting their needs met. There's something that they're not getting, that's why they're asking that. Or maybe someone else wants more of them than they're prepared to give.
Yeah.
That's also okay.
And I guess the intimacy, like you say, it depends what level of intimacy you're talking about. Because if it comes down to not getting your needs met, then sex doesn't necessarily meet the needs. If what you're looking for is attention or affection.
Yes. But then you need to be open and honest. You need to say, because again, it's responsibility. You're responsible for getting your intimacy needs met, and you just say what they are. And actually, in general, when you ask someone to meet your need, they usually try. But if you don't tell them what they are, they can't. And if they don't or they won't, well, then you have a choice to make, because you don't have to stay with someone who doesn't meet your needs.
Yeah.
Same as you wouldn't want to stay in a job that doesn't meet your needs. You know, life's really just seems to be just about getting your needs met. And the more you get met, the more enjoyable you find life.
And probably the less you tolerate shit that doesn't serve you.
Yes, because that's not meeting your needs. Like the friend who's toxic. Not meeting your needs.
It'd definitely
but you're probably meeting theirs.
Yeah, it'd definitely be easy to sit down with your partner and say, okay, let's have a conversation. Here's what I need. What do you need? Rather than sit down with your mate of 25 years and say, you're a shit mate.
Yeah, but just to reiterate, that's not the behaviour.
That's not what we're doing, guys. I was just being silly.
We go to the behaviour, yeah. So, well, same with the relationship. It's not about saying, you're not intimate enough for me. You say, I'm not getting enough intimacy. This is what I need. This is what I would like more of. Does that work for you? Well, yeah, sure, I can try. Or, no, I'm not cuddling you. All right, okay. Well, I want someone who's going to cuddle me. So we're potentially going to have to go our separate ways.
Mm. Yeah, makes sense. And it's looking at it's not blaming again, isn't it? And looking at the positives and saying this is what I do need, rather than saying you haven't done this and you haven't done that and you haven't done this and you're a piece of shit.
Because when you do that, they'll get defensive and they won't hear what you want them to say. And it's in your best interest for them to hear what you want to say. So it's important that you then take responsibility for how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
You aren't responsible for them and how they hear it. You know, you can be as clear as you like and they might choose, you know, not to hear what you're actually saying. But then you have a choice of whether you stay in that relationship, whatever type of relationship it may be.
Mm. Yeah, work, friend, relationship. While we're on, we were just on intimacy a while back. We've rolled past it. But is sexting cheating?
Well, again, that's a question that maybe that's an unreasonable question to expect someone else to answer for you. I guess, like, if I was speaking to someone, or, you know, if I was speaking to a client, I would be like, do you think it's cheating? Are you okay with that? Personally, I wouldn't be.
I would not be either.
I wouldn't say that to my client, but that's not what we're doing here, right? And I was kind of asked the question. So I wouldn't be okay with it. But someone doing that to me, I wouldn't be okay with that. But you may be. That's your choice. You need to...
some people like threesomes. Some people like an open relationship.
Yeah. Exactly. We all like different things. We're all think different things are okay. But if you don't think it's okay and your partner thinks it does, you don't have to put up with that. You have a choice. You don't have to stay with someone, because they can go and find someone else who will be okay with it. Yes.
Yeah.
They didn't accidentally do it, did they? They made a choice.
Your thumb didn't fall on those letters in those
No one slipped. No one fell. Yeah. It was a conscious decision, wasn't it? There may be a reason why that happened. You know,
like your
maybe
needs
there's
not getting met.
Yes, maybe there's something else going on in your relationship. But again, they also had a choice then to explain that their needs weren't being met. That would have been the adult thing to do, right?
Yeah. And so this also ties in with how to handle when you love someone, but you struggle with the morals of, well, I guess if you struggle with their morals, then that's a breakup situation. But if you struggle with the morals or political beliefs, it says, of some of their friendship group or family.
Yeah, tricky. But remember, it's not theirs. But have the conversation with them. Get clear. Actually, that makes me uncomfortable. What are your thoughts on it? Make sure that they're on board, you know, and they are, you know. And I guess if it's something like, well, I guess if we're thinking like, for example, racism. Well, actually, it's not okay just to not be racist, is it? You know, it's important to be anti-racist. So if your partner is hanging around with people who are racist and they're okay with that, well, that's not really okay, is it? They need to be saying to them, hey, listen, I'm not, that's not okay. I don't want to hear you saying things like that, and I don't believe in them. So you might need to have that conversation. If one's a Tory and one's a Labour, well, you know, I guess it's important to remember that, you know, it doesn't make them a terrible person necessarily. You just have different beliefs and different views about how things,
and different priorities. Some of these things are as well. Yeah. And you wouldn't fall out with somebody because their relationship was their number one priority, but your business is your number one priority.
No, we're allowed to have different priorities. We're allowed to have different beliefs and different views. You know, unless they're things that involve people's human rights. Well, I don't really think that's an area for negotiation.
No, absolutely not. It's not. It's like being a flat earther, isn't it? I don't believe in racism. Well, it's a fucking thing, dickhead. So learn about it.
I would have a lot more time for a flat earther than a racist.
Yeah, me too. Tell me more about this flat earth. At what point do we fall off it?
Yeah, why doesn't water fall off the side?
Maybe it does. You don't know.
Yeah, true.
Stephen Hall, if
Yes.
you have been hurt in the past, how can you be sure not to poison a new relationship if you struggle with trust?
Okay, I'm going to give one of those answers that I said at the beginning I don't really like because they don't really mean anything. But you need to do the work. It's not, remember, it's not that person that you're now dating that's hurt you or any future person. Learn the lessons from what happened before. Notice. Take responsibility. Like maybe you noticed that person behaved in a certain way and you weren't okay with it, but you kind of let it slip. Maybe you didn't fully take responsibility for your boundaries. Notice what happened as a consequence, and you can do things differently, because not only will the next person be different, you'll be different as long as you notice and learn from before. But if you are worried about that, just go and speak to someone.
Yeah, that's another point where you just have a therapist and do your own healing, do your own work.
Yes, it's a very small investment in yourself, which will make the rest of your life better. And if you don't know how to find a therapist, just DM me. It's very easy actually once you start looking. But go on the counselling directory. In fact, I can probably just tell you now. Go on the counselling directory. It's very clear. They've all got the pictures on there so you can see them. You can read about them. Find 3 that you like the sound of. Give them all a call and go with the one that gives you the best feeling in your gut. You're just looking for someone you can build a good relationship with.
I just think if everybody in the world had a therapist and stopped bleeding all of their emotional wounds on other people, the world would be a happier place.
Yes.
Don't ruin a relationship that you've got, whether it be with a friend or romantically. Don't ruin it by living in the past.
No, there's no point.
But also recognize red flags, because some people are very good at turning a blind eye to red flags.
Yes.
I heard a good quote on that yesterday, actually. What is it? I need to tell you. If you wear rose-tinted glasses, the red flags just look like flags.
Someone said that to me yesterday.
What are the chances?
Someone wrote that to me yesterday.
Was it me? Did I tell you that after I heard it? That's mad if it was 2 separate people telling us.
No, I think it was someone else. Now, these are the kind of universal signs we need to keep an eye out for, right? So that's very important. Everyone needs to look at that. Yes, they just look like flags. And if your glasses are rose tinted, they'll look like a lovely rose shade of red, rather than that warning shade of red.
Poison! Toxic!
Yes. And people will normally tell you and show you all these things at the beginning. I'll give you an example from a dating app as well. This girl had put in a profile that she liked to play games, or she was a gamer or something. And I said, "Oh, are those computer games you're playing, or are they psychological games?"
Yeah,
and
emotional manipulation.
She was like, well, they're actually computer games, but I have been known to leave people on red for a what was the word she used? Like an unreasonable amount of time or something. Do you know what happened in the end? She just left me on red. She'd already told me she was going to do it.
Yeah.
What was really funny about that one is we'd been talking about attachment styles and I'd sent her a test. Because she was interested. She was like, "Oh, send me that test and I'll do it and you do it and then we'll see if it's the same." I was like, "Okay." So I sent it and she never wrote back. Because
she has an avoidant attachment style. Tell us about attachment styles, Steve. This might help people.
This is too complicated.
In a nutshell, you're a bit like Kyla when I spoke to her. You don't really do elevator pitches or in a nutshell.
I don't. No. Well, these things are actually really complicated, Georgina, and we don't do.
Yeah, I like to put complicated things in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I'll do it. I'll do it in a nutshell, and then you, as a professional, can redo it out of a nutshell.
Confirm or deny.
Yeah. So attachment styles. You've got either avoidant or anxious or fine.
Secure.
Secure, yeah.
I'm fine. I'm fine.
So you've got 3 types of attachment style based on maybe your conditioning.
Basically, there is one slightly one which is very rare, and you wouldn't know if you came across it. But yes,
In
basically
a
it's 3. In a nutshell, yes. Sorry, yeah, there's 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that it? So, is that all you want? Yeah, those are the 3. Those are adult attachment styles. Not to be complicated with all attachment styles, because if you Google attachment styles, it'll probably come up with other things.
And the thing is, if you're avoiding, it says what it says on the tin, you're probably avoiding intimate relationships in one way or another, even if you don't realise that you're doing it. And if you're
you won't realise, you won't know.
A bit, unless you read up on about it and you're very self-aware. Or you're
that probably doesn't
anxious.
sound like the kind of thing an avoidant would do, though.
Well, one might argue you might come to realise in time. Anxious, you would be maybe needy, clingy, and if you get an anxious and an avoidant together, they're probably, the avoidant is going to drive the anxious one more anxious, and the anxious one is going to drive the avoidant one further away.
Yes, but also, can we just clarify, when you use the word needy, that's not a negative. We all have needs. We've just
Needy's
been
not
taught,
a negative.
We've just been taught, yes, but sometimes the term needy can imply there's a problem, and there's not. Like I was saying before, life's really just about getting your needs met. We all have needs. There's nothing wrong with having needs or wanting cuddles or wanting intimacy. There's nothing wrong with any of that.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem comes in when we start judging ourselves for it.
Yeah. Or if you found someone with an avoidant attachment style that's making you feel bad about it.
Yeah, you're going to trigger each other's attachment style. It's going to be very difficult for an avoidant and an anxious to both get their needs met. Yeah. Because they're both looking for 2 very different things. But at the beginning of the relationship, it'll seem amazing.
Yeah. Because sometimes toxicity comes off as chemistry.
Yeah. So it's exciting. It's fun and exciting at the beginning. Yeah. And then it's slow. It's like a dream, but slowly, potentially, could descend into a nightmare. Yeah. But not if you're both doing the work and looking after one another.
Yeah, that's it. And that's again why
you can be open and honest.
A therapist.
Yeah.
Because then maybe someone who has been classically avoidant, classically anxious, could both have a therapist and both help themselves out of those holes.
I wonder if I know any people like that. Can we go back to a question that we didn't finish answering? Yes, it was about the person who asked about the sexting.
Oh, yeah, sure.
There was a second part to their question.
Yeah, can you ever move past cheating?
Yeah, and again, that's not a question that could really be answered. Some people can, some people can't. But I think if you're in that position, I really think that you need to go together to speak to someone together. Because I guess some people do get over it on their own. But I think you're going to be more successful if you go and talk to someone. There's lots of stuff going on there under the surface that really needs to be dealt with. Because otherwise, it will still be coming up in 20 years' time. If you don't do the work. It's important to do the work. And that's the kind of thing I would suggest that you do with someone.
And it's also important to know that you don't have to let it go.
No, you don't
have to move past it because you've got kids, or again because you've invested that time, doesn't mean that you have to forgive somebody for something that doesn't align with your wants, needs, and morals. Even
100%. And watch out for the people's advice, because they don't have to live with the consequences.
Yeah. So, and that's classic, isn't it? Telling a friend that you've been cheated on or whatever, and the friend saying, "Oh, give them another chance. Like, they've never done it before. That's not like them," because the friend likes them. Yeah, but the friend doesn't have to live with them or be cheated on by them. So,
or people who say, "Oh, if someone cheated on me, that would be it. I would never, have anything to do with them ever again." Well, that's very easy to say if it's not happened to you.
Yeah, and you're not in the middle of it with the feelings.
Yes. And we don't know what's going on in people's relationships. Maybe
I think be very careful about taking advice from friends on these kind of things, actually. And sometimes ask yourself, why are you seeking out so many other people's opinions?
Also, yes, definitely. It's normally about trusting yourself, but there's nothing wrong with talking about it. In fact, it's useful, but the other person doesn't need to give advice. And if you're not looking for advice, again, it's just about being open. You just say, hey, I need to talk to you about this. I don't want you to tell me what to do.
Yeah.
I just want you to listen. People like to do things, especially if it's for someone they care about. So get them to put the kettle on, because then they are doing something. You know,
Yeah.
they don't have to fix, they don't have to solve, just have to listen.
Yeah, that's good. Not many people can do that either, can they?
No.
Listen without offering advice or solutions.
No, especially if it's someone you love.
Mm.
Doesn't matter what you are or who you are. Like, if someone I care about, it's like, I can easily go into, okay, right, this is what we need to do. You know?
Yeah, you do love giving out advice, though, don't you? That's why you're a therapist.
I try not to give out advice to my clients. I'm giving
Yeah,
you all
good.
the advice that you need.
Or if I don't need, you'll still give it.
Yeah. Sometimes you just don't need, you don't know you need it.
Or you think that I don't know that I need it. Maybe we should wrap it up there, Stephen, before this turns into a sibling argument.
I don't think that will happen.
What we will do, though, is go through some good books that you can recommend people for self-development or working on their relationships with themselves and also with others.
Okay. There was one quite detailed question that we haven't covered, but I have written an answer for it, so I'll maybe just type it up and send it to them.
Okay.
Well, I'll send it to you because I don't know who it is. You can.
It was covered in. I think we covered it generally at the start under different priorities and meeting each other 50-50, sometimes 80-20, sometimes 100-0. That's how I took it to be covered. But we will send them a detailed.
Remember what I said at the beginning?
Yeah, we'll send them a detailed answer. That would be good. And if anybody else needs any detailed answers for anything in particular, just get in touch with Stephen. I'll link to his Instagram on the show notes, but it is at TY Therapy Courses on Instagram. That's at TY Therapy Courses on Instagram for anyone who didn't hear because he dropped his pen. Go for your book, Rex. Stephen.
Okay, so relationship ones. Well, what we were talking about, attachment styles. There's a book called Attached by Emil Levine and Rachel Heller. I cannot stress how much everyone should read this book. It's amazing theory. Like, you'll enjoy it. It doesn't matter if you're in a happy, satisfying relationship or not. You will enjoy this book. It's brilliant.
Interesting,
really well
because
written.
I bought that book and then lent it to you and never read it first.
Oh,
so I'm
maybe
still
that's
yet
why,
to read it.
Maybe that's why you were able to put it into a nutshell and I wasn't.
Yeah, because I only read the cover.
Just read the synopsis. I suppose that is it in a nutshell. Yeah, well, I've given it you back. There's no reason not to read it. It's great.
Yeah, it's on the bottom pile.
This is a book I've not read, but my colleague says is amazing, which is Mating in Captivity by Esther Perel. And that's for people in long-term relationships.
That's a nice spin on long-term relationships. Captivity.
Well, yeah. Couples in Collusion is a great book. If you find that you're the type of person who keeps meeting people that need to be fixed or rescued, or you seek out people who need to be fixed or rescued, then Codependent No More will shock you by how accurately it explains your life.
I know.
So those are good.
Need to read that.
It's really good. It's really well written as well. These are all like written in like, you know, you don't need a degree to understand them. They're just well written and clear. Important books for me were like in What to Say When You Talk to Yourself, about learning to reprogram the language you used to talk to and about yourself.
Yeah.
I'm reading Emotional Intelligence at the moment, which again is a book everyone should read, especially if you've got kids.
Cool.
Emotional Intelligence, much more important than IQ. Born to Win, bit of a dodgy title, but brilliant.
Yeah.
Just about
It's not a Bruce Springsteen song or anything, is it?
No, it's Born in the USA.
All right. Which one?
No, it's not a Bruce Springsteen song, that one. Born to Win. I think that was written by Muriel James. Homecoming is one of the best books I've ever read, by John Bradshaw. He's amazing. You can look his stuff up on YouTube. It's great. And Be Your Own Life Coach by...
Yeah, I've read that.
Oh, what's it called? Fiona Harold.
Yeah, I read that when I was about early 20s, and ever since Be Your Own Best Friend has been my mantra.
Yeah, I read that a long time ago too. I don't even remember most of the stuff that's in it. I just know it was brilliant.
I just remember Be Your Own Best Friend, and it's just a life lesson to live by.
A book that maybe all men should read is Iron John. I can't remember who wrote it.
We'll put a link to all of these books on the show notes,
Okay.
by the way, so you don't need to remember them or write them down right now. You can go to the notes and find them there.
And if you want a couple of good fiction books, Celestine Prophecy, excellent.
Yeah.
And what are those people called that make lead into gold?
Oh, The Alchemist.
The Alchemist.
Yeah, The Alchemist is a lovely book.
Paulo Coelho.
Yeah. Lovely. Well, that's loads to think about there, Stephen. I bet people will need to listen to this again and actually write notes on it. Go and
Do you want it in a nutshell?
Therapist. Yeah, give us it in a nutshell.
Okay. Nobody is perfect. We all make mistakes. If you don't judge yourself, they'll learn experiences. No relationship is perfect. They require work and effort. If you want to put the effort in, do. Make the relationship the best it can be. If you don't want to put the effort in, be honest with yourself. We don't always like the answer we already have.
Very good. Very good nutshell. Very important nutshell.
You're welcome.
I don't know anybody who can't take something away from this.
Even me.
Even you, and you do the best that you can most of the time.
Or at least some.
Yeah.
At least now and again.
Stephen Hall, thank you so much for being a guest. I'll see you at Christmas.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun. Well, we don't know that, but okay.
If not, I'll just see you on the internet.
Okay.
And at TY Therapy Courses on Instagram.
Yeah, and tytherapy.com is our website.
Great. Thank you.
Bye.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.
If you want to improve your well-being in a non-wanky way, you can join hundreds of other like-minded people in my monthly subscription group for live training sessions, daily workouts, nutrition tips, meditations, and more. Only $10 a month. Email me now, georgina@georginahalltraining.com. Thank you for listening to the Female Empowered podcast. If you want to hear more from us, you can follow us on Instagram at Female Empowered, where you can also get involved with our discussions, and feel free to send us a message.